Sometimes you just have to stick to your principles. Here are two stories of two ingenious innovators whose perseverance brought them out on the right side of history. Helen Hulick. In 1938, a 28-year-old kindergarten teacher named Helen Hulick made history in a Los Angeles courtroom when she refused to wear a dress. When Hulick presented in court to testify as a witness to a burglary in her home, she was reprimanded by the judge for wearing slacks. Although she was asked to wear a dress in the next hearing, she declined and was held in contempt of court and even jailed. Born in eastern Pennsylvania, Helen Hulick Beebe had moved to California so as to teach students who were deaf. She was to become a renowned pioneer in auditory verbal therapy, but it was long before that she first made history. In 1938, after her house was burgled by two men, Hulick was called to testify against them in court. But when she took the stand, Judge Arthur S. Guerin told her off for wearing slacks. He said that Hulick's pants, as he called them, took too much attention away from the legal issues under consideration. The fashion was not popular or widely worn amongst women at that time, but to Hulick's surprise, the proceedings were rescheduled in order for her to reappear dressed in a more acceptable outfit. The judge was in turn surprised, however, when Hulick publicly denounced his decision the following day. She told the Los Angeles Times that she would be standing on her rights and that if he ordered her to change into a dress, she wouldn't be doing it. "I like slacks, they're comfortable," she declared. Her return to court the following day created even more of a stir. She was dressed in an orange shirt and dark green trousers. Judge Guerin once again halted the proceedings just after Hulick had been sworn in. This time her attorney, William Katz, was carrying 4 heavy volumes of citations supporting her right to appear in whatever dress she chose. Despite that, the judge again reviled Hulick for her unacceptable garb and said that as she reclined on her neck on the back of her chair, she was drawing more attention from spectators, prisoners and court attachés than the actual legal case at hand. Condemning her purported defiance of orderly conduct, he once again instructed her to vacate the courthouse. Yet again, the hearing was rescheduled, and this time Judge Guerin issued a warning. Should Hulick return in slacks again, she would face jail time. Reporters rushed to hear her statement as soon as she emerged from court. She told them that she had worn slacks since she was 15 and didn't own a dress, except for a formal gown, which she would wear if that was what the judge wanted. However, she said, if she came back in slacks and the judge put her in jail, "I hope it will help to free women forever of what she called anti-slackism." Sure enough, Hulick returned to court the following day wearing her slacks, and Judge Guerin stuck to his word, holding the kindergarten teacher in contempt of court. After allowing her to testify, he sentenced Hulick to 5 days in jail for her wearing of mannish attire. She was forced to wear a dress made out of denim during her imprisonment. Hulick was released early after her attorney took the matter to the appellate court. 4 days after Judge Guerin's original ruling, it was overturned, leaving Hulick free to wear whatever she chose at the next hearing. On January 17, 1939, she attended the courthouse in what was described as evening attire, complete with a veiled hat, perhaps playing the press for an easy joke. Hulick's willingness to be arrested for the sake of increasing women's clothing freedoms was followed by a brilliant career as a teacher and pioneering scientist. She developed a new form of therapy for people who are deaf, wrote, lectured, and founded her own non-profit treatment centre. Judge Guerin, meanwhile, is remembered solely as a hurdle to gender equality. Elijah McCoy. The child of enslaved parents, after 8 years of rigorous training as an engineer, Elijah McCoy could not find a job because companies were unwilling to hire black engineers. Instead, McCoy built on his job as a railroad labourer to invent a groundbreaking device that changed railroad history. Just before Elijah McCoy's birth on May 2, 1843, his enslaved parents, George and Mildred McCoy, fled bondage in Kentucky and travelled north on the Underground Railroad to Ontario, Canada. In 1847, the McCoys moved to Michigan, where the young Elijah showed an aptitude for mechanics. At just 15 years old, he travelled to Scotland, where he trained in engineering at the University of Edinburgh. The university recorded that McCoy completed an apprenticeship program and earned his certificate as a mechanical engineer, altogether training over 8 years. The young engineer returned to Michigan to seek work in 1866, when the Civil War had recently ended and the 13th Amendment abolished slavery only months earlier. However, in the post-Civil War era, black men and women were still excluded from obtaining professional jobs, and even in the North, white employers would only consider black workers for manual labour. Unable to find work as an engineer, McCoy accepted a job at Michigan Central Rail Board as a fireman and oiler. This work was labour-intensive and taxing because at that time, locomotives required frequent manual oiling. Trains would regularly pull into roundhouses where McCoy and his fellow oilers rapidly applied lubricant to the axles and other moving mechanisms. Steam locomotives travelled so fast that they quickly burned through the lubricant, which meant frequent stops for the costly and time-consuming maintenance. But with his knowledge as an engineer applied to his work as an oiler, McCoy quickly formulated a solution to the problem. He developed a lubrication cup which evenly and automatically distributed oil around every moving part. Now, rather than frequently stopping for maintenance, locomotives could travel for significantly longer stretches, improving speed and profitability. McCoy's invention was instantly successful. The oil drip cup, as it became known, was soon a standard tool in every train. Steamships and other heavy machinery also used McCoy's automatic lubricator. Happily, McCoy filed a patent on his invention in 1872, but the young railroad worker was unable to afford producing the lubricators himself. He had to hand over his product's manufacturing rights to others, so that an invention that should have made McCoy rich saw him still working on the railroad. Many other manufacturers imitated McCoy's device, but his original lubricator worked much better than the wannabes. Railroad engineers made sure to specifically ask for McCoy's oil drip cup to avoid inferior products, resulting in the term "the real McCoy" becoming popular in describing any genuine article over a cheap copy. While Elijah McCoy continued to work on the railroads, he also continued to perfect the lubricating cup and to design and patent his many more new innovations. The Michigan Bureau of Labor and Industrial Statistics reported that by 1899, the McCoy lubricator was being used on almost all North American railroads. McCoy's profits were limited, and lacking the funds to produce the lubricators independently, he assigned his patent rights to the railroad company. Later, he sold patents to investors to raise money and also patented work in other areas. He invented a lawn sprinkler, a folding ironing board inspired by his wife, and even a rubber-soled shoe. His groundbreaking inventions continued throughout his life. According to Smithsonian Magazine, in 1916, now aged 72, McCoy patented a new graphite lubricator. The advanced model employed a mix of oil and graphite that enhanced efficiency for the 20th century engines, which ran even hotter than their predecessors. Although McCoy obtained his first patent in 1872, it took him nearly 50 years to raise enough funds to start up his own company. In 1920, he created the Elijah McCoy Manufacturing Company, whereby the lubricating cup he had invented half a century earlier would now bear the name of its inventor. In 1922, just 2 years later, McCoy and his wife were involved in a car crash which killed his wife and left him with serious injuries and unable to work. 7 years on, the brilliant inventor died impoverished at the age of 85. During his lifetime, McCoy received little acknowledgement for his work apart from in trade publications and African American newspapers. His inventions had rarely carried his name, and although working as a consultant for engineering firms, McCoy was never able to find a company willing to hire a black engineer. However, Black Americans celebrated McCoy. In 1909, community leader Booker T. Washington commended McCoy as the black inventor with the most patents up until then. McCoy did finally achieve recognition as a pioneering inventor after his death. In the 1970s, the state of Michigan placed a historical marker outside his former home, and the city of Detroit named a street after him. 2001 saw McCoy inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame, and later in 2012 the US Patent and Trademark Office reopened its Detroit branch, now with the title of the Elijah J. McCoy US Patent and Trademark Office. Despite preventing him from working as an engineer, prejudice could not halt Elijah McCoy's prolific inventions. While he received little reward for his patents during his lifetime, today McCoy is celebrated as a groundbreaking black inventor.